Good morning. I'm on my way to work again, and today is Independence Day. I am working the 4th of July today, just because I don't have any picnics or things planned this morning, and we go early in the morning enough to the point where I can still enjoy the festivities at night, so why not? I love my job, so I don't mind working today at all. But before we get started, please like and subscribe. Please share my channel. Please listen to the end. And please comment whether you agree with me or not. That's very important. I'm always up for, it's not a debate with me. I'm always up for learning and listening and hearing other people's opinions and views. So please feel free to comment. So today's topic, what I wanted to talk about is the generations. This comes from the conversation. I'm a little tired, so my voice is off and I'm foggy, but I'm going to do my best here. But the conversation that I had last night with my coworker, there were a couple of different things that we talked about, and I posted one video on my way home from work because she impressed me so much, with her views, and I wanted to share those. And then this morning I woke up with the thought on my mind how much I love working with my coworkers who are mostly, we have a lot of Gen Z in my office. We have people of all ages, but most of the people on my team are Gen Z. My kids are all millennials, and I have one Gen Z. And so it made me think, our conversation last night really made me think about the difference in views throughout different generations. And this morning I woke up, I don't even know if I had a dream last night, but for some reason what was on my mind today was the fact that we have different perspectives. Different generations have different perspectives on life. And my coworker and I were talking about that. We were talking about how we see through the window of our perception. And the world looked differently for my parents. My parents were Depression era, and the world looked very differently for them. The world looked differently for baby boomers. You went through the 60s and the 70s, and, the world looked differently then. I'm a Gen X, and, we were raised with MTV and and disco, and there were a lot of different things going on. I went through the Nixon scandal, and there were the Cold War. There were different things going on in the world during the time that I was being raised and when I was a teenager. And then I went into the military, and things changed during that time when I was in my early 20s. So every generation grows up in a different environment. Every generation grows up not just in a different home environment, but a different political environment, in a different world. Because before the Cold War, everybody was afraid of getting nuked. After the Cold War, everybody was able to relax. Before 9/11, people didn't think about being attacked on American soil. After 9/11, how can that not be on anybody's mind, that they can happen? So as different things happen in history, it changes the dynamic of basically just the whole feel for what that particular generation is going through and what they're born into. I was not born with an iPhone in my hand. And my son, who's a millennial, he wasn't born with an iPhone in his hand either. He was born we didn't even have a desktop computer when my son was born. But then we got a desktop computer when he was like 4, 3, or maybe he was like 2 or 3. We got our first desktop computer, and it was so slow, and it ran on DOS. And I got him a little DOS program that he could play with, and that was his very first computer. He was 2. Nowadays, you know, a 2-year-old has access to iPads and iPhones and computers and laptops and, you know, just about every form of technology, Apple Watches. And I'm not saying that every parent buys their 2-year-old a cell phone. I'm just saying that they have access to it. How many parents hand their 2-year-old a cell phone just to dink around and play with? Because a cell phone is basically an appendage these days. So if you have a small child, they're growing up with technology. And we didn't have that. We didn't, in high school, I'm going to age myself again here, but in high school, they came out with the first Apple word processor. Look that up. We typed on actual typewriters until one day when I was a junior in high school, they came out with this new machine and they said, we're going to be typing on this now. And you type along and you can actually see the words going across it. And if you make a mistake, you can just hit the back button and correct it. We were flabbergasted. We couldn't believe that we didn't have to take corrector tape anymore and stick the corrector tape and it was like double-sided. You had the paper that you were typing on, then you had the corrector tape in between it, and then you had the other paper that was like a receipt. Like you had 3 layers and you'd stick that paper in and type your message, and if you made a mistake you had to correct all 3 of them. Like, what the heck? You had to go back to the letter that you made a mistake on and then hit it with the corrector tape, stick the tape in it, and then hit it again with the peg. I mean, that is how we typed in high school. And when that Apple processor came out, that thing was gold, because all we had to do was hit the back button and it corrected it for us. And that made things so fast. I became a really fast typist as a junior in high school because we had an Apple word processor that would correct. So, you know, it went from there to, I went into the military. I didn't see much of computers while I was in the military because I was working on fighter jets. I wasn't in an office. But when I got out of the military and I got my own home and got all settled down, when I had my son, that's when we got our first desktop. And I used to love DOS. My first job working at a desk, they used a DOS program, and that was fun for me, putting little like letters into slots, you know, and it would have all these different slots that you had to fill out. I think State Farm actually, I don't know if they still use it, but State Farm actually still has, last time I worked there, they had a DOS system. They do use Salesforce now, but they also use a DOS system. And I remember using that at State Farm. I love DOS. I think it's fun, but most people don't even know what it is. But, you know, that was the generation. That was my generation. That was my son's generation. We were raised with very little technology. We didn't have social media. Nowadays, I mean, everybody has social media. Everybody has TikTok. Everybody knows what Instagram is. Everybody knows what Facebook is. We're raised in a world where we get on the computer or a phone and we're connected with everybody. And that is both good and bad. Being connected with everyone is really wonderful because you can get to meet other people in the world, and being connected with everyone, you know, you can take any good thing and it'll end up, eventually scammers will come in and start to take over. But yeah, when you're connected with everyone, you also get to see the worst of life, because that's what happens. Something good happens and then people come in and start to mess it up. But anyway, the generations today, Generation Z and the future generations, are raised with that. And I talked to one of my coworkers the other day, and I said something about, oh my gosh, I think that was a scam. And she said, yeah, in my generation, we just think everything's a scam. And I thought to myself, wow, in my generation, nothing was a scam. You could trust almost everybody. Like, there might have been one person that was bad in the neighborhood, but you could trust everybody. And in this generation, you really can't trust anybody. You have to question everything. That creates a different mindset. That creates a whole different dynamic of thinking. That creates a different way of seeing the world. So it's no wonder that, you know, our generations see things a certain way. It's no wonder they see things as they say fluid. Everything is fluid. I love that personally. I adopt the things that they see. I think it's healthy for generations in the past to get to know generations who are in the now, because they know things that we don't. We know some things that they don't. We can teach them some history, but I don't want anybody to ever get stuck in the past. I'd rather move forward in the future. And I love hanging out with Gen Zs because just like my roommates say, you know, we have millennials in my household. And so, they're always saying, oh, well, we're going to plan this or plan that, but it's fluid, and everything's fluid with them. Their sexuality is fluid. Their bodies are fluid. Their way of looking at themselves are fluid. Their jobs are fluid. Life is fluid. And I really love that. I think that is really the key to happiness in life, is when you can keep your life fluid. And so those are just some things that I wanted to bring up because I'm impressed by this generation. One of the coworkers messaged on our message board that, our generation is the one that's filled with love. And I thought to myself, this is a generation that's really going to start to make changes, positive changes, because this generation is filled with love. There are just different things that go along with different generations. There's some that have a certain level of selfishness, some that have a level of more compassion. And I'm impressed with this current generation. I really like to learn from them, and I'm really glad that I'm living in a world where I get to know them and learn and grow. So if I have any Gen Zs on here, if anybody is listening, if anybody wants to add anything to anything I say, I am a Gen X, and so there are things that I might say that are totally outdated and do not fit with the world as it is today. Please speak up, because I want to learn these things. I want to learn and grow. I want my life to be fluid. And that's my whole, goal, is that my life will be fluid, and I'll be seeing things in a way that is ever changing, ever growing. I want things to grow. And I always say that I'm morphing. I'm always morphing into a new being, into new knowledge and learning new things. So thank you very much for being on my channel. I appreciate it. And if you like my content, please share. And I will see you next time.